Bordafel. My name's James. I'm part of the transformation team at Caerphily County Borough Council, and I'm particularly tasked with promoting innovation across the authority. Up until a couple of years ago, in keeping with other local authorities around Wales and beyond, we've gotten used to tightening our belts each year, salami slicing our budgets and trying to deliver quality local public services with less and less resources. We know that's not sustainable for the future, so we need to make transformational change to the way we deliver those services to enable to keep doing so in the future. One of the ways in which we try to do that is pursue opportunities like the Challenge Fund to try out different ways of working and solve the challenges ahead of us. Thanks to the Challenge Fund, we were able to try a new approach to tackle a particular challenge for us, which was in keeping our electric fleet charged for work. So today I'm going to talk you through how we developed that challenge and how we implemented it, and what we learned from the experience, because we made some mistakes and it took a lot longer than we expected, and we've learned from that. We've changed the way we work to make sure that that doesn't happen again, and we want to share that learning as well so that other people can benefit from that. Just to illustrate what the challenge was, we had a fleet of almost 600 diesel vehicles at Caerphily, and they produced 30,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent each year. That's a significant part of our carbon footprint that we knew we could get rid of if we moved to an electric fleet. Electric vehicles need a different approach to fueling than diesel vehicles. You can't fuel an electric vehicle in 5 minutes once a fortnight. So we knew we needed to change the way we work to enable our fleet to be charged ready for work. For some of our vehicles, it's not a problem, actually. This is one of our sports and leisure team's vans. This van is kept at head office overnight. It can charge slowly in the office car park. It can do everything it needs to on a single charge throughout the day, come back to the office and be parked overnight. That's not a problem at all. If you've got a small number of vehicles and you've got the office space to support them, then this is the way to keep them charged. Not a problem. Not a problem, not a challenge. But if you've got hundreds of vehicles and you don't have the space at your offices and depots, you don't have the electrical grid capacity to charge that many vehicles overnight, and importantly, quite a lot of our vehicles actually operate on a return-to-home basis. They never go to our offices or depots. They're taken home by their drivers and kept at home overnight. 3/4 of our drivers actually don't have off-road parking at home, so even something like installing home chargers isn't a solution for them. Problem faced by one of our environmentally conscious local residents who has gone green, got themselves an electric vehicle, doesn't have off-road parking, so isn't quite sure where to park it, but they've met that challenge. They've found a solution for them. If they run an extension cord out of the back window, across the garden, over the shed, and stick it on a pole over the pavement, they can charge their car as long as it's parked on the corner on the double yellow lines. Now, that's resourceful. It's innovative. Yeah? It's wrong. It's not a solution, certainly for our plumbers, our electricians, our carpenters. We don't want them all doing this with Caerphily County Borough Council branded vans. So that's the challenge for us. Actually, that wasn't the challenge that we first. That wasn't the first iteration of our challenge, because one of the first things we learned was to be clear about the problem we were trying to solve. And that's how challenge-led innovation can lead you to solutions. Our initial ideas were based on things like we're all moving towards net zero. We want everybody in the county borough and beyond to go electric in the future. We know that the government wants to stop production of diesel vehicles in the future as well. So this is a societal problem. But we needed to drill down to exactly what challenge we wanted to solve to make sure that we were focused on finding a solution that worked for us, that had a practical effect for us. Now, that was a learning point right at the start, and it was people from the Challenge Funds team and a group of people from KTN, which is part of the Innovate UK network, that helped us revisit that challenge and drill down to a very specific challenge statement. We wanted to keep our vehicles charged for work, We wanted to understand how to manage them effectively and efficiently to do that, and make sure that we had charging infrastructure in the right place. Now that's a specific challenge, it's a specific outcome. And we had ideas about solutions as well. We wanted a digital tool. We knew we had some data available to us in our fleet management system, in our vehicle tracking devices that we weren't using, we weren't getting the most out of, so we wanted a digital tool to bring that together with geographical information as well. We wanted to manage our vehicles, manage the journeys they were making to reduce them, and we wanted to identify charging locations, the right type, the right size of charger. And at first, we were pretty convinced that we needed to put chargers in community locations. We own a lot of land across the county borough, and we expected to develop a tool that would tell us which libraries, which leisure centres, which schools even were the right locations to put chargers in so that our vans could charge there for a bit during the working day. But that wasn't part of our challenge statement. I want to stress that being open-minded as to what the exact outputs of your challenge are, the right solutions for you, being open-minded about that is very, very important. Publicising our challenge, KTN, the team from Innovate UK, they have an innovation exchange platform which they use to promote challenges across the country, but they also have a network of industry experts, something we didn't have access to normally as a local authority, but they knew people who were experts in the field of renewable energy, electric vehicles, charging solutions, fleet management, data science. They were able to target suppliers, up-and-coming suppliers, established ones, that might be interested in our challenge, and they could put them in touch with each other as well to look at developing consortium bids to tackle our challenge, something we wouldn't have got from a traditional procurement approach. We had 20 bids actually for that work, and we whittled those down with an initial sort. Some of them weren't right at all, but we eventually invited the ones that looked most promising to a Dragon's Den style pitch day, which was really interesting, and it helped us get to know the people who were interested in our challenge. And we eventually picked a winning consortium of partners. This was one of the challenges for us, though. Our procurement team, very, very cautious about this approach. This SBRI challenge-led approach was a very different way to procuring suppliers for a local authority to the way we were used to. And we spent quite some time making sure that we crossed every T, dotted every I, and made sure that we were compliant in the way we were using public funds to support this project. Cannot stress enough how important it was to have procurement involved right from the start in this project. Our partners were a consortium of 3 led by Optrack, who are a company who specialise in vehicle routing, a company called FPS, Flexible Power Solutions. They were experts in electric vehicle charging optimization, and Cardiff University's own Digital Transformation Innovation Institute. Now, they together, the 3 of them, had the right technical skills, the exploratory mindset, and the academic rigour to really look like they could bring us the solutions that we were after. Having Cardiff University, our own local academic institution, was the icing on the cake for that consortium bid. Our next challenge was actually writing a contract that would work for us for a challenge-led innovation project. We had to work with our legal team to go through every line of our standard terms and conditions because they really weren't suited for an innovation project. They were based on things like, if we were procuring a product, we'd want to have a detailed spec about exactly what it did. We didn't know what we would develop, so we had to write a contract that was open-minded about the specification of the final product, but very clear about what outcomes we were hoping to achieve with it. And we also had challenges with the lines referring to intellectual property rights, because our standard terms and conditions, if we were to get a consultant in to help us develop something, we'd retain the IP. For an innovation-led project, and particularly one like the Challenge Fund, funded by external partners, one of the sweeteners to the deal really for suppliers was that they retain the intellectual property. So that was something we had to go through line by line with our legal team. Again, took time, delayed our project quite a bit. But we moved into discovery then. We had a lot of data to explore. We had data on our vehicles, where they went, what they did, geographic information about where we had land, and we spent a lot of time understanding how our fleet really worked. We flagged up very, very early things we suspected but didn't have the proof beforehand. Things like how much time our vans were parked up but idling. We now know quite a lot about people sitting in their vans having their lunch with the engine running. That's a problem. Trips to builders merchants. We found a lot of people going to the builders merchants and back to jobs when actually our contract with the builders merchants insists that they deliver on site. So why were they doing that? Repeat trips to the same places up and down the country every day. We had a lot of specialist staff, electricians, carpenters, plumbers, expensive people that are hard to find, spending sometimes more time driving than they were working. So that was an issue to address. Some of our trackers weren't working either, and according to our suppliers, when they first looked at the data, one of our vans was in Bulgaria. It wasn't, happily. It was a van we'd leased, but returned to the supplier. They'd sold it on to a third party who'd exported it to Eastern Europe, and it still had one of our trackers on it, sending us all the journey data and costing us £5 a month. Anyway, but exploring that data brought problems as well. Vehicle tracking data, we hadn't used it in this way to manage our vehicles before in the past, so we had to work very, very closely with our HR team, our people services team, and our trade union representatives to make sure that the exploratory work we were doing was in line with what our union reps thought they were comfortable with. And I'm pleased to say, actually, we had more resistance to that from management, who really didn't want to start the conversation about vehicle tracking information, thanks Carla, than we did from the union reps themselves, who helped us design this project with that in mind. We also had difficulty getting API links to download raw data from our other systems. It also led to some ideas for discrete work for our consortium partners. FPS, our partners, also looked at research and guidance to design and manage charging stations for us in our offices and depots. And we had MSc students from Cardiff University look at patterns in those idling times, options for pool cars for some of our teams, and patterns in repeat visits to places as well. We discovered a lot, and the biggest message that came out of this was that community charging locations, our first big idea about what we expected to get out of this, they're not needed if we managed our vehicles more effectively, more efficiently to reduce our charging load. In the meantime, we've reduced our fleet by 100 vehicles, just about, and we now have a prototype of a digital tool that combines that data from vehicle management systems, our vehicle trackers and geographical information to give our operational teams the ability to understand how they use their vehicles, how to make changes to the way they deliver their services to make them more effective, and we're testing that out now. I had a recap slide to tell us most of the things that I've highlighted already. I'll pass over to Phil, my colleague, who will tell you a little bit more about his experience in the Infuse program and how learning from the Infuse program has helped us. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Good morning, Chisel morning, everyone. My name is Phil Evans. I work at Caerphily Borough Council, and I'm the Fleet Review Officer, looking at how we're going to decarbonise our fleet, and so very much interested in this project and how it was going to deliver for us. I also was one of the first cohorts on the Infuse course. I think there was one before us that were guinea pigs, not literal guinea pigs, just human beings, but they tested it out for us. And as part of that process, we were told about tools that could help us design and run an innovation project. What I discovered in engaging in this project is it's not just about setting it up and running it. It's also about understanding where you are in that process and how you are developing in that process. And I think one of the things that really stood out to me as I was running through this process is that the same tools, the tools down there, that we use for designing and running the process could be used to help us see and understand where we were in that process. So clarifying how the project is developing, confirming the pathway and that we're on the right pathway, identifying issues and reviewing and reflection on that project. You could use the tools down there to design it and also see where you're going. You know what it's like? You're involved in a big project and it can be really difficult to see the wood from the trees sometimes. Now, I haven't got time to go into any of all those. Just wanted to mention one. I'm hoping to get, yeah, there we go. And that is prototyping and iteration, because that was something that I really found helpful as we've been running through the process. I'm not going to go into it in any detail, but you get the data, you create a prototype, you analyze that data. And for me, I would have always gone down that right-hand side. You know, if the prototype isn't working, develop the prototype. But what I learned through Infuse and what we applied in this project is another thing you can look at is, are you asking the right question? Have you framed the problem correctly? And holding these two things in tension together helped you understand where you needed to go next with the iteration. Do you need to go back to the problem and redefine it? Or do you develop the prototype so it becomes better? The other thing that we had there was this idea of data gathering. We worked with data specialists. They love data. They wanted more and more data, more and more specific data. They wanted to show us what they could do with data. And the problem was that took us away from the original problem that we were looking at, and also took up a lot of time. And one of the things I've learned is sometimes just make data up, because you can refine it as you go. So yes, you need a certain amount of data, research data in particular, but when you start developing your prototype, then you can just look at data and find things that will work, that will fit, because that will allow you to test the prototype and allow you to make those iterative developments. Time's gone, so I'm just going to talk about quickly some of the learning, and this was a problem that we encountered. It took me a while to realize where the problem was. The difference between a demo and a prototype. So our partners, they were great. They had lots of ideas with data and what they could do with it, and they would turn up and they would show us these wonderful PowerPoint presentations, and I said, great, can we work on something? Then they go off and ask for more data, and we went round and round with more and more presentations, more and more data. And we hadn't had anything to put our hands on, anything to interact with. And one of the things I learned is that if you're going to run a project like this, you need a prototype early. You need to get your hands on it. You need to see if it works and if it doesn't work. And that helps you really define the problem as well as develop the solution. So the importance of iteration and prototyping is a lesson that I've taken with me out of that process. There are lots of others. We haven't got time. Owen's there with a taser gun if I go too long, so I need to wrap this up rather quickly. Just to say, what would I do differently in the future? Lots of things, but here are two things that I'm really going to take with me. Number one, plan a deadline for the initial prototype. If you haven't got everything together, if you haven't ticked every box, it doesn't matter. I think it was Ravi who was sharing earlier that the initial prototype can be small and simple, and you grow from there. And that's something that I think we really learned. Eventually, the penny dropped, and we were able to push for that prototype and begin to work on that. But I would set that out initially, if I was doing it again, say, right, okay, here we are. We're going to define the problem. We're going to gather this data by this date, and then we're going to get some kind of prototype together that we can work on together. And then plan the process of review and iteration. Put it right in there at the beginning. Talk about how that's going to work, how long you're going to give yourself to review the prototypes, how long you're going to have to assess them, how long the partner is going to have to develop those prototypes so that you can make that sort of progress that you need to make for a program like this. That was very quick. I hope I didn't speak too quick. Apologies to the guys from Ireland, but thank you very much for listening.